Welcome back. The SADC Electoral Advisory Council SEAC Commission leader, Dr. Leonard Sesa, and a delegation are in Namibia for an 8-day pre-election assessment goodwill mission ahead of the presidential and National Assembly elections taking place on November 27th. The purpose of the consultations is to gather stakeholder views on the conduct of the elections and assess Namibia's political and security environment to ensure the elections are free, fair, transparent, credible and peaceful in line with revised SADC principles and guidelines. Dr. Sesa now joins us this evening for a discussion. Doctor, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Welcome to Namibia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Before we get into the reason why you're here, Doctor, perhaps to start with, you can give us a brief background or mandate on SEAC.
Yes, it was around 2004 when the senior veterans within the SADC region met and says, no, within an organ called Defense Security, they decided to say, elections are very key, and therefore we should have that wing through the SADC Electoral Advisory Council to sit down, and now focus, because through elections, countries can ban, countries can build their own democracy. And the good part of it, for me to allow me to acknowledge one of the pioneers, your former ECN chairperson, Tembo. There were some of those pioneer people who started SEAC. So it's just to come here and touch base with all the electoral stakeholders to see to it that, one, is the Electoral Commission ready, the preparedness, in conformity with our Bible. This is our Bible that I would like to share with you. I'm going to give you 2 copies so that the Namibians can see. People call this is our Bible in the SADC region, so that at least you can go through, because I'll be referring a lot from this Bible.
Fantastic. How does this mission, Dr. Sesa, fit into SADC's broader efforts to promote democratic, elections within the region?
Like I said, when we look into Article 3 of our Bible, SADC principles and guidelines governing democratic elections, is stipulated. The objectives are there. Straightforward, Article 3. Just to say, one, first and foremost, SADC have got the liberty to come and observe elections in any member state. We have that. SADC shall observe elections. So we have the right to come and observe elections. And as we come, there is 360 electoral cycle, where we have the pre-activities, we have the during elections phase, and then post. I'm happy to say SADC was here, deployed a mission in your last 2014 general elections, and then we submitted a report with recommendations, and thereafter there was the post-electoral mission to see to it, are there some new laws that would be in conformity with the SADC guidelines? Are there new laws that the Electoral Commission of Namibia introduced so that we can see, are they in line? Looking into the consideration that recommendations by different regional organizations, including SADC, how far are you? And we're very happy that, we realized that there was that gap between media and ECN.
Right.
And when we met with ECN, we realized that, no, indeed, they worked on it. And we are currently meeting different stakeholders, and they're giving us feedback to say, yes, out of those recommendations, especially that one, we are working hard. There's that relationship with other stakeholders.
That's fantastic. Outside of the recommendation on the relations with media, from the 2014 recommendations and from your observation being in Namibia now for a few days, what else has been implemented?
We also look into is the security and the political environment, is it conducive? That's the first question that we ask most of our stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, we have to advise the director of organ, whether to deploy SADC electoral observer mission or not. So such questions, whether the environment is conducive or not, we ask all this. And then we also look into, besides the recommendations, some reflections, especially by the ECN. there are two things that we look into. The ECN may tell us that we are not ready. It has happened in the SADC region where they said we are not ready. Why? Because of the issue of funds. We have seen that. We have that experience. And therefore, it's up to us. If we get that from the ECN, we should be able to rely to other SADC members to say, colleagues, there is a sister country that is really running out of funds, and therefore, is there anybody? And in that case, we saw one member state being assisted by others to say, okay, no, let's just go through this. And then as a warning system where we say, if all or most of the electoral stakeholders are saying the environment is not conducive for ECN to conduct free, fair, credible, inclusive elections, therefore it's an alarm that we should say, what is it? Are there some hot spots within Namibia that says, you know, people are saying we're not free and there's too much intimidation? Then that's another issue that we have to look into.
And have you vetted Namibia to be a conducive environment for the elections?
We are currently meeting stakeholders. It will be premature for me and suicidal to say yes so far, because you know the good part of it, one thing that I can say is most of the electoral stakeholders that we are inviting are really turning up for our invitation. We have met with the ECN, we have met with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have met with diplomatic missions subscribing to SADC. We have already started with some other political parties and then academia. So there's a lot. We are now with media. Some of your colleagues came there. So we are really open to all stakeholders to come. This time around, we are the ones posing questions so that they fit in. When we come for election observation, it's going to be totally different, because now what SEAC is currently doing should be able to write a report at the end and share with the leadership. When we come back, we'll be well equipped. But like I said, our report, before we leave next week, Wednesday, our report must be signed off. Our report must be out.
As you mentioned, the Bible in your possession is built on the principles of the revised SADC principles and guidelines. Speak to us about these, these principles and guidelines that you'll be using to benchmark and evaluate the electoral process.
Yes, that's it's a lengthy book. When we say elections are free, what do we mean? When we say they are credible, what do we mean? No, credibility goes to the electoral management body. You see, is it open to the citizens? Is it open? Is it engaging the electoral stakeholders? These are some of the boxes that we take, we look at. And like I said, if the local the stakeholders are the ones feeding us about how or the collaboration is between them and the ECN, we look into it. Of course, not all of them will say the relationship is good, but at the end of the day, we should look into majority and says, okay, fine, it looks like the ECN has done this. Most of them are responding like that. Like I'm saying, the report will be out next week. If we have time, we can always share with you. But in most cases, we share that with the key stakeholder, being the ECN, to say, before going for elections, there's this serious concern that you need to consider.
Fantastic. Just your overall assessment thus far of Namibia's preparedness before I let you go?
Definitely, like I said, I'll be happy to share a lot next week. But what I can say now, we are so delighted, we are so happy in the turn-up of the stakeholders. Sometimes we go to other countries, they deny us. And let me tell you, especially the political parties, they are sending people of high office, secretary generals, and those are the engines of all these political parties. So they are there to come, and we give them more than an hour for them to give us. And really, so far so good with meeting us. With us meeting with different stakeholders. And what we can say is, we wish all the Namibians. What's
on your agenda for between now and next week, Wednesday?
The agenda is meeting. No Saturday, no Sunday. We are meeting different stakeholders. There are a lot. We still have to meet youth. We have to get the voice from women organizations, disability people. So there is a lot that we still have to look into. And as you know, we have more than close to 10 political parties or more than that. We have opened doors for all of them. Whether deregistered or registered, that's another issue. But for us, all. And for your own information, we met, I think, 2-3 today that had been perceived as deregistered.
Right.
For them to come and share with us their own experience through that. Well and good. Because we don't want to say, you have been deregistered, we are pushing you away. No, we are here to meet all the key stakeholders so that at the end of the day, we don't want to mislead the leadership of SADC, because at the end of the day, they must approve our report and say, indeed, your recommendations allow SADC to deploy a mission. Imagine if we deploy them and the security issue here is not safe. What are we saying? We would have misled it. So, like I said, we are still meeting. I think Monday, Tuesday, we are doing our analysis to compile our report.
We look forward to seeing the results of that report. Dr. Sesa, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
That was Dr. Leonard Sesa speaking to us, the SEAC, that is the SADC Electoral Advisory Council's mission leader. They're here on an 8-day mission in Namibia. We'll be right back with more conversation right after this.